Friends, we are experiencing one of the rarest days in financial history. The Watcher Guru news you see on the screen right now is not just a story about a budget increase. We could call it an earthquake for global liquidity. Donald Trump has just announced a $1.5 trillion defense budget. Look, this figure is so large that it represents the biggest cash injection into the US military since World War II. However, there is a very strange contradiction. According to traditional theory, if money is being printed, Bitcoin should be soaring. But what do we see? After seeing news like this, whenever Bitcoin tries to rise, it spikes down to around 65,000. Why did digital gold, that is, Bitcoin, flash a red light in response to Trump's move? Today, in our video, I will tell you about the hidden budget items behind this $1.5 trillion, how the so-called Golden Dome intercontinental hypersonic missile shield will affect the markets, and the new IMF cryptocurrency report that will change the DNA of cryptocurrencies. Now sit back in your seats and watch this 11-minute video carefully. Because in this video, we will look together at the financial map of 2026. Let's get started with our video. Friends, welcome back to my video. Before my video begins, in these dull, joyless days and markets, you can give us some energy by liking the video. You can make us happy by subscribing to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support. Now, let's get to the famous $1.5 trillion. This figure is so large that even if you combine the total military budgets of the US's biggest rivals, Russia, Iran, and China, you still can't reach this amount. Trump, on the other hand, calls this the dream military. This time it's the military part of the American dream. So where does the lion's share of this budget go? It goes to the Golden Dome. You know about the Iron Dome in Israel. Well, in America, there's also the Golden Dome. In other words, the Golden Dome. Trump is building a space shield to protect the US from hypersonic missiles. The White House announced the cost as $185 billion. However, in secret reports from the Congressional Budget Office, it's being discussed that the amount could reach as high as $3.6 trillion. Just imagine we're talking about a space network made up of thousands of satellites. The second largest item will go to shipbuilding. But this is where the contradiction begins. Elon Musk was very active in politics for a while and established a Department of Efficiency. The government established a Department of Efficiency in America. He called it DOG, that is Doge. He really did achieve significant savings. The US government had actually started making savings here. But now, after all that time has passed, a budget is being requested that's twice the amount of all the savings made. If you remember, there was a time when Elon Musk and Trump had a falling out. Recently, they haven't really been on the same page, to be honest. Maybe this could be the reason for the tension between them. But let's get to the topic that concerns us. If such large budgets and decisions to print money are being discussed, why isn't Bitcoin rising? This massive budget request will add another $5.8 trillion to the US national debt over the next decade. This means that it will be impossible to keep inflation under control. The moment the US Federal Reserve saw Trump's spending plans, it had already shelved interest rate cuts. As you know, interest rate cuts were very important for the rise of cryptocurrencies. Since the expectation of free money in the market has ended, money has started flowing into gold, interest-bearing assets, and even weapons instead of Bitcoin and tech stocks. So, in summary, while Trump is investing in his army, the cheap liquidity that Bitcoin needs is being absorbed, friends. While the world was discussing Trump's decisions, on April 1st, the IMF prepared and published a groundbreaking report on cryptocurrencies. Friends, the IMF is no longer ignoring crypto. The report contains the following statement exactly as it is. It says, tokenization is not a marginal benefit to the financial architecture, but a structural transformation. In other words, it doesn't just say tokenization is something useful. It says that all of us will transition to tokenization. As of today, tokenized real-world assets, or RWA, have surpassed $27.5 billion, friends. In other words, those who used to say that crypto is a bubble are now starting to explain the value of tokenization one by one. If such a critical piece of news had been shared in 2021, for example, if the IMF had published a report about cryptocurrencies, you can be sure that most of the coins you hold would have doubled or tripled in value. But yes, we are in a very bad market. The bad market continues, it's still ongoing. However, the IMF has still issued a warning. Flash crashes, meaning sudden and sharp drops, can occur. The report says that even sharper crashes can happen than the Wall Street crash in 2010. So yes, you could say this place is a bit like the Wild West. What did we say in the last video? Actually, the biggest problem in the world right now is the rising price of oil, because oil is a main input in everything from A to Z. Right now, you can see the graphs of oil and inflation on the screen. If you pay attention, they move almost in perfect sync with each other. So, when the price of oil goes up, inflation rises as well. When inflation rises, risks begin to emerge, and frankly, people start asking this question. So how can we invest in oil then? Can I just grab a canister, go to the gas station, and stock up on oil by the canister? Binance made a smart move here. Now you can open oil and natural gas trades on Binance Futures, friends. I also make my trades there. Scanning the QR code you see on the screen right now, signing up and completing identity verification is all you need to get started. You not only get a 20% commission discount, but you can also benefit from a welcome bonus of up to $600. You can either scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the video description. Larry Fink, the world's largest asset fund manager, said that if the price of Brent crude oil reaches $150 per barrel, it is very likely that we will face a global recession. So are we far from $72? No, we are very close. Right now it is at $79, and its recent peak was $120. And currently, there is talk of the US launching a ground operation against Iran. So soon, oil may be moving step by step toward the $150 level. This could mean a global recession. And recession is almost one of the worst things for the entire world. I mean, the worst thing is war. After war, maybe it's recession, my friends. Poverty, hunger, and impoverishment will spread everywhere if there is a recession in the world. Now, towards the end of the video, I will talk about a book. It's a book about crypto. As you know, CZ, the founder of Binance, has been talking for a long time about writing a book. The name of the book is Freedom of Money. Actually, what we call Bitcoin is exactly the freedom of money. Now, you can first download this book as an ebook to Kindle. I will download and read it too. It's currently only available in English. If you are proficient in English, you can read it easily from there, and I will share the results with you as well. So, what does the book talk about? The book tells the story of CZ's journey, starting from his childhood years in China to founding a financial giant that reached 300 million users. In fact, there are also some accounts in the book about his years in prison. I will also share my thoughts with you after I read the book. But the essence of the book is this, says CZ. Crypto is not just an investment tool, it is the manifesto of financial freedom. So let's look at the conclusion. In conclusion, friends, although Trump's $1.5 trillion budget will absorb liquidity in the short term, it seems likely to cause the dollar to lose value in the long run. Jeremy Powell also says that banks now have to work in integration with crypto. Cathie Wood, on the other hand, says that Bitcoin is screamingly in the buy zone. So, what am I doing? I'm still staying away from altcoins, but I'm accumulating Bitcoin in parts, friends. You can spread this out over time, once a month, every 2 weeks, according to your own budget. You can hold Bitcoin without straining your own budget. In other words, you have to diversify your investment portfolio. People are only focusing on gold. No, you can also hold gold or oil, or in my opinion, you can accumulate Bitcoin in parts as well. Remember, big whales accumulate assets from the market during bloody and bad days, and they sell when the market is high. Right now, we are in a bloody and bad day. Yes, I think it's a reasonable time to buy Bitcoin in parts, but not all at once, as we call all in, but rather spread out over time. I hope you enjoyed my video, friends. Hope to see you in another video. Goodbye. Take care of yourselves.